Everybody knows that the UK Independence Party believes in an independent Britain, free from EU control. But due to the media blackout of UKIP, you may not be aware that we have comprehensive local and national manifestos. In fact, we have the most comprehensive manifesto of any UK political party, as unlike the old anti-UK parties, who have handed over 70% of our laws to Brussels, our self-governance will allow us to make policy in every area and deal with the issues and concerns of the British people. People have had enough of parties who promise everything, deliver nothing, and deny everything. The UK Independence Party are the only true party of freedom. Join us in our fight for democracy and freedom.
UKIP's policy is to give the people, both at local level and at national level, dependent upon the issue, the right to vote in referendums. At the present time, the councils in Yorkshire pay towards the unelected Yorkshire Regional Assembly. This is an organisation which in total costs £3.1 million to all we tax and council taxpayers. It's UKIP policy to abolish these regional assemblies. For years, the Conservatives, Labour and Liberal have all lied to the people about the European Union. The British people in the 1970s only voted to join a common market, a trading organisation, never the EU political union.
The UKIP government would cut everybody's council tax by 50%. We believe our money should be used to help people in Britain, not to fund the rest of Europe.
If our NHS is so desperately short of cash, there are two things to be done. The first is to stop squandering money on management consultants, diversity czars and other politically correct jobs worths. Ring fencing for the frontline staff of nurses, doctors, care staff and yes, matrons who will guarantee the cleanliness of our hospitals as they once did. More importantly, the £100,000 a minute we donate to the European Union must be reallocated to more essential services. We are quite capable of managing our own financial affairs.
At UKIP, we believe our NHS should be managed locally, not micromanaged from Whitehall. We believe treatment should be based on clinical need, not on performance targets. We would open GP surgeries in the evenings and weekends when working people can visit them. And we would create more residential care homes and say no to increasing home care charges.
The situation in our state schools is just as desperate. Lack of discipline, poor standards of literacy and mathematics condemn youngsters to opt out of society. As a retired teacher, I would welcome the reinstatement of the grammar school. These set higher standards and ensured that all children who would benefit from an academic education would not be denied. This would also ensure a competent workforce among our own people rather than relying on an immigrant force. Major importance will be the returning of power to the headmasters to conduct their own schools and their own discipline.
UKIP supports grammar schools. We believe they should be available to all bright children, regardless of background. We would aim to reverse the dumbing down of exams by reassessing exam grades. We would put more emphasis on the basics of reading, writing and arithmetic. We are committed to repealing the Human Rights Act, which would afford teachers more powers to discipline and exclude unruly children.
The EU dictates we must accept all our immigrants, whether they are honest or criminal, and most cannot even communicate in English. Mass immigration is crippling our public services, and our children are being left behind as schools struggle to integrate foreign-speaking children. The over-demand on housing creates rising house prices and the destruction of greenbelt land. Our highly paid MPs claim we need more and more immigration, but it won't be them, but the low-paid working classes and legitimate immigrant workers that will have their wages undercut by the foreign market.
A UKIP government free from the EU's common asylum policy would take back control of our borders and work towards zero net immigration. Our government would adopt a point system based on our country's needs, much like the sensible system in Australia. We believe anyone looking to settle in the UK must be fully fluent in English and willing to fully assimilate into our society. We would look to reverse the failed project of multiculturalism.
Our government's criminal policies of early release from prison and importing criminals from the rest of the world have made our city a very dangerous place. The problem has been exacerbated by our government's involvement in dubious wars, the failed policy of multiculturalism, which has served to polarise our citizens and create tensions in our society. An independent think tank had our city as the 4th worst crime rate in the country. This report only highlights what residents in our city already know.
Some parts of our city are virtual no-go areas.
UKIP are opposed to the regionalisation of police forces and the subsequent closure of local police stations. We would aim to replace the powerless community support officers and replace them with real police. We want to see tougher sentences for criminals. Criminals should be in prison, not electronically tagged or free to walk the streets to terrorise the public. The EU is not only undemocratic, but it is expensive. When UKIP state they will raise pensions, cut taxes and invest more than the other parties, we really can deliver. We would stop sending £39 million a day to the EU and give it back to the people it was stolen from. You. Our membership of the EU costs your family £60 a week.
Resistance is useless, and la résistance est inutile. Widerstand is unbrauchbar.
We do not only want to free our people from the EU police state, we want freedom from centralised control, freedom to speak our minds through the elimination of political correctness, freedom to walk the streets without the fear of crime, freedom from hospital waiting lists, and freedom from excessive taxation.